The alien archaeologists shook as they realized the crumbling ruins belonged to humanity's ancient ancestors, whose bones betrayed the power and violence their descendants one day soon would unleash on an unsuspecting galaxy. Dr. Murlock and his apprentice Tharl were exploring the newly discovered underground site on the frontier world of Zephyrus Prime, drifting through chambers thick with dust from millennia of decay. But hidden among the collapsed stone was shockingly preserved evidence of an advanced civilization older than the Voxari by eons. Scattered bones and skulls showed that these bipeds walked upright, and Murlock knew at once these were the precursors of the fearsome humans. "Dr. Murlock, look at this inscription," Tharl said, his voice trembling, holding up a gleaming metallic cylinder untarnished by the ages. The professor took the artifact in stunned wonderment, seeing cryptic runes never before recorded by Voxari xenolinguists. By the High Collective, we thought humans were newly emerged brutes, but this writing system, these architectural designs, they had an empire while our kind still squabbled in caves, Murlock said. They delved deeper into the ruins, finding a massive granite monolith engraved with hieroglyphs that seemed to pulse with latent power. The two Voxari felt a chill as they pondered the potential secrets held within. "Tharl, we must alert the High Council and magistrates at once. Humanity's modern warriors are terrifying enough," Murlock said gravely, his voice serious. "If humans rediscover the arcane might their forebears once wielded, the galaxy will tremble anew beneath their armored boots. This secret cannot be allowed to fall into their hands." The days had blurred together into a sleepless frenzy of research in the Voxari archaeological camp. Murlock's eyes were bloodshot as he scrutinized the mysterious alien cylinder yet again, the runes still defying translation. His scales itched from nights without proper hygiene, and his office was littered with empty stimulant vials. The doctor sighed, leaning back in his chair, wondering if the secrets of humanity's ancestors would forever elude him. Tharl burst into the office. The apprentice looked haggard, his lab coat stained with chemicals and artifacts dust, but there was a gleam of excitement in his eyes. "Dr. Murlock, I think I've found something," Tharl said, his words tumbling out in a rush. He thrust a datapad into Murlock's hands. "Look at this star chart. I've been analyzing the monolith's engravings non-stop. I'm convinced they're a map." Murlock blinked rapidly, his fatigued mind struggling to process Tharl's discovery. He pulled up a galactic map on his own datapad, comparing it to the apprentice's findings. The pieces suddenly fell into place. "By the cosmos, Tharl. You're right. These coordinates embedded in the hieroglyphs, they lead to an uncharted system far beyond the outer rim, completely unknown space." Tharl nodded vigorously. "Yes, and that's not all. I cross-referenced that system's location with our oldest historical databases. The coordinates match up perfectly with an ancient Voxari legend from the time before we took to the stars. The myths speak of wise visitors descending from the heavens to guide our primitive ancestors to civilization, advanced beings who gave us knowledge before returning to the skies." Murlock's eyes widened, his exhausted mind suddenly buzzing with the implications. He leaned back, talons tapping on his desk. "Is it possible? Those old tales we dismiss as superstition, could they have been based on truth? The mythical sky gods, were they real beings? Humanity's precursors themselves?" The doctor abruptly stood, knocking over his chair. "Tharl, get the team together immediately. This discovery cannot wait. We must mount an expedition to these coordinates the monolith specified. If your theory is right, we could be on the verge of solving the greatest mystery of the ages, the origins of the dreaded human empire itself." Tharl shifted uncomfortably, his tail twitching. "But Doctor, the Council hasn't approved any expeditions so far afield. That system is far beyond Voxari space. It would take us ages to reach it. Our ships aren't equipped for such a long journey into the uncharted void." Murlock clasped his apprentice's shoulder. "The Council will understand once we explain the magnitude of this. They must see reason. What we've discovered here could rewrite history, and I fear if we fail to follow this path, humanity may find it first. We cannot allow that. This is too important." After days of tense deliberation, the Voxari High Council begrudgingly granted approval for the expedition proposed by Dr. Murlock and Tharl. Though skeptical, they couldn't ignore the momentous implications of the duo's findings. Murloc and Thal quickly assembled a crew of the Voxari's brightest minds, specialists across fields from archaeology to astrophysics. The journey was grueling, the ship's life support systems strained by the vast distance. Murloc spent the long weeks poring over the artifacts, searching for any further clues. Thal worked tirelessly to extrapolate the mysterious coordinates' exact destination. As they dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the outskirts of the uncharted system, the crew held a collective breath. Sensors swept the unfamiliar stars until a faint energy signature bloomed on their scopes. It emanated from the fourth planet, a marbled orb of azure and emerald. The ship descended through wispy clouds, the crew catching glimpses of glittering spires rising from the lush landscape below. They sat down on the outskirts of a sprawling metropolis, its towering structures still reaching proudly skyward despite the weight of untold ages. Donning exosuits, Murloc and Thal led the first expedition into the city's eerily silent streets. Vine-draped buildings loomed on either side, their advanced metallic alloys resisting the ravages of time. The Voxari's steps echoed strangely, the city's acoustic properties foreign to their ears. In the city's heart, they found themselves standing before a colossal pyramid, its gleaming surface etched with cryptic runes. Thal ran a scanner over the writings, his device translating them into Voxari script. "This is it, Dr. Murloc. The seat of power of the ancient civilization. The answers we seek must be within." The team cautiously entered the pyramid, their lights playing over vaulted hallways of smooth stone. The air grew colder as they descended, their equipment registering minute energy fluctuations. Then they entered a cavernous chamber, and their jaws went slack. The room was filled with technology beyond their wildest imaginings. Ghostly holographic displays flickered to life as they entered, bathing the room in spectral light. Murloc and Thal approached the largest screen, a sense of profound awe settling over them. The display coalesced into an image of a bipedal being, at once foreign and strangely familiar to Voxari eyes. Taller and leaner than the reptilian scientists, there was a certain undeniable kinship in the entity's stance and proportions. Thal found his voice first, barely a whisper. "Are these the sky gods?" Murloc nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving the projection. "I believe so, Thal, but look here. They call themselves humans. And this city, it was their capital. The heart of an empire vaster than we ever imagined possible." The human figure flickered, replaced by a dizzying rush of images and alien text. The scientists watched in mute astonishment as scenes of unthinkable advancement played out before them. Faster-than-light travel, terraforming on an industrial scale, gravity harnessed as a tool, the manipulation of space-time itself. "Thal, do you realize what this means?" Murloc breathed. "The humans were millennia beyond us, epochs ahead of our most visionary sciences. This technology, it's like nothing I've ever seen." The apprentice leaned closer to the projection, his eyes widening. "Wait, Dr. Murloc, look at this section here. If I'm translating this correctly, it says the humans uplifted dozens of lesser species, guided them to the stars, and one of those species was the Voxari. We owe our very civilization to them." A profound silence settled over the chamber as the implications sank in. Murloc stared at the flickering displays, his mind awhirl with unaccustomed humility and trepidation. "But then, what happened to them, Thal? Why did they vanish, and why did our ancestors never speak of this?" The hologram held no immediate answers, the human figure simply gazing back at them in silence. But one thing was crystal clear to the Voxari scientists. This discovery would change everything. Humanity's legacy would reshape the very foundations of their society, if they could unravel the riddle of their disappearance. Murloc and Thal ventured deeper into the ancient human settlement, the towering spires giving way to smaller, more intimate structures. The dwellings here seemed more personal, less grand in scale, but no less impressive in their preservation. Thal gestured towards a modest building, its metal door hanging slightly ajar. "Doctor, look, these appear to be living quarters of some kind. Shall we investigate?" Murloc nodded, his curiosity piqued. They entered cautiously, the interior bathed in the soft glow of their exosuits' lights. The space was tidy, almost eerily so, as if its occupants had simply stepped out moments ago rather than eons past. "Fascinating," Murloc murmured, his gaze sweeping over the room. "The level of preservation here is remarkable. These humans built things to last." Thal moved to a shelf lined with small objects, trinkets, mementos, each one a tiny window into a long-vanished life. He picked up a small rectangular device, smooth and cool to the touch. As his fingers brushed its surface, the object flared to life, projecting a shimmering hologram into the air. "Dr. Murloc," Thal exclaimed, nearly dropping the device in surprise. I think this is some kind of personal log or diary." Murloc hurried over, his eyes widening as the hologram resolved into the image of a human male. The figure was tall and lean, with intelligent eyes and an air of quiet confidence. When he spoke, his voice was clear and strong, tinged with an accent the Voxari had never heard before. "My name is Edward Howard," the human began, "and if you're seeing this, it means—" He paused, seeming to gather himself. "It means our great empire has fallen." Murloc and Thal listened in rapt attention as Edward spoke of his life, his family, his work as a scientist in service of the human empire. The tales were fascinating, offering a glimpse into a society at once alien and strangely familiar. But as the log went on, Edward's tone grew somber, his words heavy with a weight that transcended the ages. "We've faced many challenges over the millennia," he said, his eyes haunted. "But this is different. A plague, unlike anything we've ever seen. It's spreading rapidly, and our best minds can't find a cure. We've lost countless lives already, and it's only a matter of time before—" The recording cut off abruptly, leaving Murloc and Thal staring at empty air, their own reflections ghosting in the hologram's afterglow. For a long moment, neither spoke, the implications of Edward's words sinking in like a stone. "A plague," Thal whispered, his voice hoarse. "Could that be what wiped out the humans?" He began to pace, his tail lashing in agitation. "And what about us? If this plague is still out there, dormant, we can't risk exposing ourselves or the Voxari to it. We need to take precautions, study this further." Thal nodded, his eyes wide and serious. "You're right, Doctor, we have to be careful. The fate of the human empire, it all seems to come back to this plague. And if we're not cautious, their story could become ours." Murloc placed a hand on Thal's shoulder, the weight of their discovery settling over them like a shroud. The once mighty humans, laid low by an enemy too small to see. It was a sobering thought, a reminder of the fragility of even the greatest civilizations. But as they stood there, surrounded by the relics of a species long gone, Murloc felt a flicker of something else beneath the trepidation and awe, a spark of determination, of resolve. The humans had left their mark on the galaxy, had uplifted and guided the Voxari and countless others. Now in the face of this new revelation, it fell to Murloc and his kind to carry that legacy forward. They would unravel the mystery of the plague, would honor the humans' memory by ensuring their own empire endured. It was a daunting task, but one they could not shy away from. The Voxari had been given a gift, a glimpse into the very foundations of their civilization, and they would not let that gift be in vain. Murloc and Thal made their way through the eerie, vine-draped streets of the ancient human city, taking every precaution against potential contamination. They donned protective suits, the material crackling with each step, and activated their helmets' air filtration systems. The weight of their discovery hung heavy in the air, a palpable presence that set their nerves on edge. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the metropolis, they came across a structure that stood apart from the rest, a towering edifice of sleek metal and gleaming glass. Thal consulted his scanner, the device whirring and clicking as it analyzed the building's composition. "Dr. Murlock, these readings indicate that this building was a research facility of some kind. The materials used in its construction are unlike anything we've seen before." Murlock nodded, his eyes narrowing behind his helmet's visor. "Then this is where we'll find our answers. Come on, Thal. Let's see what secrets the humans left behind." They entered the facility, their footsteps echoing through the cavernous halls. The walls were lined with advanced scientific equipment, the likes of which the Voxari had only ever dreamed of. Holographic displays flickered to life as they passed, projecting schematics and formulas that danced in the air like ghostly apparitions. At the heart of the main laboratory, they found a large sealed containment unit. Its surface was a smooth, unbroken expanse of some unknown alloy, interrupted only by a complex control panel that glowed with an eerie, pulsing light. Murlock approached the panel, his talons hovering over the alien controls. "Thal, according to these readouts, this containment unit is holding a sample of the plague that wiped out the humans," he said, his voice tight, with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Thal took a step back, his tail twitching nervously. "Dr. Murlock, we should leave it alone. If it's as dangerous as Edward Howard said—" Murlock shook his head, his eyes never leaving the containment unit. "We can't, Thal. This could be the key to understanding what happened to the humans. We have to study it." He began to carefully manipulate the controls, his movements precise and deliberate. The containment unit hummed to life, the air around it shimmering with barely contained energy. Thal watched, his heart pounding in his chest, as Murlock worked to unlock the secrets of the human plague. Suddenly an alarm blared through the facility, the sound so loud and piercing that it nearly drove the Voxari to their knees. A holographic projection of Edward Howard appeared before them, his expression grave and his eyes haunted. "Emergency protocol initiated. Unauthorized access detected. Containment breach imminent," the human said, his voice echoing through the chamber. Murlock and Thal froze, the realization of their mistake crashing over them like a tidal wave. They had been so focused on their quest for knowledge that they had failed to consider the consequences of their actions. Edward's projection continued, his words a dire warning from beyond the grave. "To whoever finds this message, I warn you, the plague contained here is more dangerous than you can possibly imagine. It's not just a threat to humans, but to all life in the galaxy. We were fools to think we could control it. If the containment is breached, there will be no stopping it." Thal grabbed Murlock's arm, his grip tight with fear. "Dr. Murlock, we have to go now." Murlock hesitated, torn between his burning curiosity and the weight of Edward's warning. He looked at the containment unit, its surface now pulsing with an ominous red light. The alarm grew louder, the sound drilling into his skull, and the unit began to shake, its stability compromised by their meddling. In that moment, Murlock made his decision. He turned and fled, Thal close on his heels. They raced through the facility, their hearts pounding in their chests, as the alarms screamed and the containment unit threatened to unleash its deadly cargo. They burst out of the building, sealing the doors behind them with shaking hands. Outside, in the silent streets of the dead city, they caught their breath, the weight of their narrow escape sinking in like a stone. Murlock leaned against a crumbling wall, his voice shaking as he spoke. "Thal, we can't let anyone else find this place. The plague, it's too dangerous. We have to keep it contained, no matter the cost." Thal nodded, his eyes wide with fear and understanding. "But Dr. Murlock, what about our mission? What about the Council?" Murlock shook his head, his mind racing with the implications of their discovery. "The Council can't know about this, Thal. Not yet. We have to find a way to study the plague without risking its release. We have to understand what happened to the humans and make sure their fate doesn't become our own." He straightened, his resolve hardening like steel. "We'll seal off this section of the city, make sure no one else can get in, and then we'll find a way to continue our research, safely and secretly. The humans' legacy, their knowledge, it's too important to let it slip away." Thal looked at his mentor, seeing the determination etched into every line of his face. He knew that Murlock was right, that the stakes were too high to turn back now, They had come too far, learned too much to let the secrets of the humans' downfall remain buried. Together they turned and made their way back through the silent streets, the weight of their discovery hanging over them like a shroud. The fate of the galaxy, of every species that called the stars their home, rested on their shoulders, and they would not let that burden crush them. Their footsteps echoed through the vast silent halls of the ancient government building, as Murloc and Thal made their way deeper inside, still shaken from their narrow escape from the deadly plague. The air was thick with the weight of untold centuries, and the once vibrant murals and tapestries lining the walls had long since faded, their colors muted by the passage of time. As they entered the grand hall, Murloc's breath caught in his throat. The chamber was lined with towering statues of human figures, each one carved with exquisite detail and lifelike proportions. Their stone eyes seemed to follow the Voxari as they moved through the room, silent sentinels keeping watch over the remnants of their long-lost civilization. One statue in particular drew Murloc's gaze, a tall, imposing figure with a regal bearing and a face that seemed to radiate both strength and wisdom. He approached the base of the statue, his eyes tracing the engraved letters of the plaque beneath it. "Emperor Alexius Constantine, the Unifier," Murloc read aloud, his voice hushed with reverence. "Thal, come take a look at this." The younger Voxari hurried over, his eyes widening as he took in the grandeur of the statue. "He looks like he was a great leader," Thal murmured, his gaze traveling up the Emperor's carved robes to his noble face. Murloc nodded, his mind already racing with questions. I wonder what kind of ruler he was to have earned such a title. The Unifier. It suggests he brought the human factions together somehow. Thal pointed to a nearby information terminal, its screen dark but its controls still intact. "Maybe we can find out more about him here," he suggested, moving to activate the device. As the terminal hummed to life, its screen flickering with ancient data, Thal's eyes widened in surprise. "Dr. Murloc, listen to this," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "It says here that Emperor Constantine was the one who united the disparate human factions and led them into a golden age of peace and prosperity. He was a visionary leader, respected and beloved by all." Murloc leaned in closer, his interest piqued. So he wasn't just a conqueror or a tyrant, he mused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. He must have been a skilled diplomat as well to bring so many different groups together under one banner. Thal nodded, scrolling through the information on the screen. "It seems the humans weren't just technologically advanced, but politically as well. To unite an entire species like that, it's remarkable." As they delved deeper into the terminal's records, a new piece of information caught Murloc's eye. "Wait, Thal, look at this," he said, pointing to a passage on the screen. "It says here that Emperor Constantine's greatest achievement was the creation of something called the Galactic Alliance, a federation of species united in the pursuit of knowledge, trade, and mutual understanding." Thal frowned, his brow furrowing in confusion. "The Galactic Alliance? I've never heard of it," he said, glancing up at Murloc. "If it was as important as this makes it sound, surely we would have learned about it in our history lessons." Murloc shook his head, a sense of unease growing in the pit of his stomach. "Not if it collapsed after the humans disappeared," he said slowly, his mind racing with the implications. "Think about it, Thal. If the humans were the ones who founded this alliance, who brought all these different species together, what happened to it when they were gone?" Thal was silent for a moment, his expression troubled. "You're right," he said at last, his voice low. "If the humans were the glue holding the alliance together, their disappearance would have been catastrophic. But why didn't the other member species help them when the plague struck? Why did they let their benefactors die out?" Thal's eyes widened in horror, his tail twitching nervously behind him. "You don't think—" he began, his voice trailing off as the implications sank in. Murloc's expression grew grim, his jaw tightening with a mix of anger and sorrow. "If that's true," he said quietly, his voice heavy with emotion, "then the humans' legacy is even more tragic than we realized. They uplifted and united the galaxy, only to be abandoned in their hour of need." The two Voxari stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of their discovery hanging heavy in the air between them. The revelations about Emperor Constantine and the Galactic Alliance had only deepened the mystery surrounding humanity's fate, leaving them with more questions than answers. But one thing was certain. The humans' story was far from over, and Murloc and Thal were determined to uncover the truth, no matter where it led them. The realization of the Zorgon's betrayal weighed heavily on Murloc and Thal as they delved deeper into the archives, searching for any additional clues about the Galactic Alliance's collapse. The secure vault was a treasure trove of information, each document revealing another piece of the complex puzzle that was humanity's downfall. Thal pulled out another dusty file, his eyes widening as he scanned its contents. "Dr. Murloc, this is a transcript of the last known communication between the humans and the Zorgons, just before the plague reached its peak." Murloc hurried over, peering over Thal's shoulder as they read the document together. The words painted a picture of desperation and betrayal, the humans pleading for aid while the Zorgons remained coldly silent. "Taz, we implore you as our allies and friends to honor the pact we made in good faith," Murloc read aloud, his voice thick with emotion. "Our people are dying by the millions, and we need your help. The technology we shared with you, the knowledge we gave freely, surely that counts for something." Murloc set the document down, his expression grim. The Zorgons had everything to gain from the humans' demise. With their greatest allies gone, they could step in and fill the power vacuum, taking control of the Galactic Alliance for themselves. Thal leaned back against the wall, his voice heavy with sorrow. "It's just so hard to believe. The humans did so much for them, for all of us. They were the glue that held the Alliance together. How could the Zorgons just turn their backs on them like that?" Murloc sighed, his gaze distant. "Pride, Thal. Greed. The same flaws that have brought down countless civilizations throughout history. The Zorgons let their resentment blind them to the bigger picture, and in doing so, they doomed not just the humans, but the entire Galactic Alliance." They sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of the revelations hanging heavy in the air. The once great alliance, a shining beacon of cooperation and progress, had crumbled from within, brought down by the very species it had sought to uplift. Thal looked up, his eyes meeting Murloc's. "But what happened to the Zorgons after the humans were gone? Did they get what they wanted? Did they take control of the Alliance?" Murloc shook his head, a grim smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "That's the irony of it all, Thal. Without the humans to hold it together, the Galactic Alliance fell apart. The Zorgons may have gotten their revenge, but in the end, they lost everything. Just like the rest of us." He stood, brushing the dust from his scales as he surveyed the stacks of documents surrounding them. "But we can't let their sacrifice be in vain. The humans' legacy, their dream of a united galaxy, it's up to us to carry that forward. We have to make sure their story is told, so that no one ever forgets what they did for us." Thal nodded, a newfound determination burning in his eyes. "You're right, Dr. Murloc. We owe it to them, and to ourselves, to keep searching for the truth, no matter where it leads us." Together, they delved back into the archives, the secrets of the past waiting to be uncovered. The betrayal of the Zorgons was just one piece of the puzzle, one chapter in the sprawling saga of humanity's rise and fall. But with each new discovery, Murloc and Thal knew they were one step closer to understanding the true scope of the humans' legacy, and the role they had played in shaping the galaxy as they knew it. Murloc and Thal stood in stunned silence as the implications of Commander Vakarian's revelation sank in. The idea that humanity had been brought low, not by an outside force, but by the actions of its own people, was almost too much to comprehend. Thal was the first to find his voice. "But Commander, surely not all humans agreed with this plan. There must have been resistance, opposition to such a drastic and destructive course of action." Commander Vakarian nodded, her holographic image flickering slightly. "Of course there was resistance. The vast majority of humanity was appalled by the very idea. But the rogue faction, they called themselves the Purifiers, they operated in secret. By the time their plan was discovered, it was already too late." Murloc leaned forward, his eyes intense. And what of the rest of the Galactic Alliance? Did they not try to intervene to help find a cure for the plague? The commander's expression grew pained. They did try, but the Purifiers had planned for that. They engineered the plague to be highly adaptable, able to resist any attempt at a cure, and they had sabotaged many of our key research facilities, destroying crucial data and samples. The Alliance did what they could, but in the end, they were powerless to stop the plague's spread. Thal shook his head, his voice thick with emotion. So the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known, undone by the madness of a few. It's almost too tragic to believe. Commander Vakarian's image straightened, a fierce light in her eyes. But it's important that you do believe it, that you understand what happened here. Because the story of humanity's fall, it's not just our tragedy. It's a warning, a cautionary tale for every sentient species. No matter how advanced, how enlightened we may think we are never immune to the dangers of arrogance, of fanaticism, of losing sight of what truly matters. Murloc nodded solemnly. Your words will not be forgotten, Commander. We will ensure that the truth of what happened here is known, that humanity's story is remembered, not just for its end, but for all that came before. Your legacy will endure. The commander's hologram smiled, a sad but grateful expression. Thank you, Dr. Murloc. That means more than you can know. The thought that our story, our achievements and our failures might serve to guide and warn others, it gives some meaning to all that we've lost. She paused, seeming to gather herself. I'm afraid I must go now. Power is limited here, and there's much work still to be done. But know that you have friends among the stars, Dr. Murloc. You and Thal. If ever you need aid, call on us. Humanity may be diminished, but we are not gone. Not yet. With a final nod, Commander Vakarian's image faded, leaving Murloc and Thal alone once more in the silent heart of the ancient city. They looked at each other, the weight of all they had learned heavy upon them. We have to tell the Council, Thal said at last, his voice resolute. The Voxari, the Galactic Alliance, everyone, they need to know the truth. Murloc and Thal stared at Commander Vakarian's flickering hologram, their minds reeling from the revelations she had shared. The idea that humanity had not only survived the devastating plague, but had been rebuilding in secret, was almost too much to process. Thal leaned forward, his eyes wide with curiosity. Commander Vakarian, you mentioned breakthroughs that could help rebuild your civilization. What exactly is this Prometheus drive you spoke of? Vakarian's hologram shifted, her expression a mix of pride and caution. The Prometheus drive is a revolutionary new form of propulsion, one that harnesses the power of artificial black holes to achieve speeds far beyond anything we've seen before. Murloc's brow furrowed. Artificial black holes? How is that even possible? Vakarian smiled. It wasn't easy. It took our best scientists decades to crack the code. But once we did, the possibilities were endless. With the Prometheus drive, we could cross the galaxy in a matter of weeks rather than years. Thal's tail twitched with excitement. That's incredible, and you said it could also terraform inhospitable worlds. Vakarian nodded. Yes, by manipulating gravity on a planetary scale, we can transform barren, lifeless worlds into habitable oases. It's still a work in progress, but the early results have been promising. Murloc leaned back, his mind racing with the implications. Commander, this technology, it could change the balance of power in the galaxy. If the wrong people got their hands on it. Vakarian's expression grew serious. Believe me, Dr. Murloc, we're well aware of the risks. That's why we've been keeping it under wraps. We can't afford to let it fall into the wrong hands. Vakarian sighed. I understand your perspective, Thal, but we have to be cautious. We don't know who we can trust out there. The betrayal that led to the plague. It's left deep scars on our psyche. Murloc nodded slowly. I can only imagine. But, Commander, if I may, the Voxari have always been a peaceful people. We have no designs on conquest or domination. Our only goal is the pursuit of knowledge and understanding. Vakarian was silent for a long moment, her holographic eyes searching Murlock's face. "I want to believe you, Dr. Murlock. I truly do. But I'm not the only one who needs convincing. There are others among our leadership who are deeply distrustful of outsiders." Thal leaned forward. "Then let us prove ourselves to you. Let us show you that the Voxari can be trusted allies, that we share your vision of a better future for all species." Vakarian's expression softened. "I appreciate your offer, Thal, and I will bring it to my superiors, but I can't make any promises. We've been burned before, and the wounds are still fresh." Murlock bowed his head. "We understand, Commander, and we respect your caution, but know that we stand ready to assist you in any way we can. The legacy of humanity, it's too important to let fade away." Thal's eyes shone with determination. "We'll do whatever it takes, Commander. The Voxari will not let you down." As the hologram flickered and faded, Murlock and Thal exchanged a glance heavy with meaning. The revelation of humanity's survival had opened up a world of new possibilities, but also new dangers. They knew the road ahead would not be easy, but they were determined to see it through. For the sake of the galaxy, and for the memory of the once great human empire, they would not rest until... Murlock and Thal's eyes widened in shock as Commander Vakarian's hologram flickered, her expression grim. The Voxari scientists had been discussing the incredible potential of the Prometheus drive, marveling at the possibilities it presented for exploration and discovery. But now the commander's words hung heavy in the air, a pall of dread settling over the room. "The Zorgons," Murlock repeated, his voice tight with tension. "But why would they come here now after all this time?" Vakarian sighed, her shoulders sagging under the weight of her revelation. "They must have been monitoring our communications, waiting for any sign of the Prometheus drive's development. And now that they know of your discovery of the ancient human city, they see an opportunity to seize the technology for themselves." Thal's tail twitched nervously, his scales shimmering in the dim light of the outpost. "But the Prometheus drive is still just a prototype, isn't it? It's not even fully operational yet." Vakarian nodded, her expression somber. "You're right, Thal, but the Zorgons don't know that, and even if they did, they'd still want to capture our scientists and take our research. With the Prometheus drive in their hands, they could dominate the entire galaxy. We can't let that happen." Murlock began to pace, his mind racing as he tried to find a solution. What if we destroyed the research, the prototypes, denied them the chance to acquire the technology altogether? But Vakarian shook her head, her voice heavy with resignation. "It's not that simple, Dr. Murlock. The knowledge of the Prometheus drive is in our scientists' minds. As long as they live, the Zorgons will hunt them down, stop at nothing to extract the information they need. And we cannot allow this technology, this power, to fall into the wrong hands." A heavy silence fell over the room, the weight of Vakarian's words sinking in like a stone. Thal's eyes widened as the realization dawned on him, his voice trembling as he spoke. "Commander, you're not suggesting—" Vakarian's gaze was steady, her resolve unwavering even as a deep ancient sadness filled her eyes. "There is only one way to ensure the Prometheus drive doesn't fall into the Zorgons' hands. We have to destroy the outpost, and everyone in it." Thal gasped, his hands shaking as he gripped the edge of the console. "But Commander, your people, you can't just sacrifice them like that." Vakarian closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of her decision etched into every line of her face. When she spoke again, her voice was soft but firm, a whisper that seemed to echo through the ages. "Long ago, we swore an oath that we would never let our knowledge be used for conquest or destruction. It is a promise we have kept for centuries, through war and peace, through triumph and tragedy. And if this is the price we must pay to keep that promise now, in the face of this new threat, then so be it." She turned to Murlock, her gaze intense, boring into him with a fierce urgency. "Dr. Murlock, you and Thal must escape now. Take the knowledge of our existence, of the true history of humanity, back to your people. Let our story be a warning of the dangers of unchecked ambition and a reminder of the importance of unity in the face of adversity." Murlock nodded slowly, the weight of the task settling on his shoulders like a mantle. "We will, Commander." Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. As the two Voxari scientists raced through the outpost's winding corridors, the ground shook beneath their feet, distant explosions sending tremors through the ancient metal. They burst into the hangar bay, scrambling aboard their waiting ship with a haste born of desperation. And as they lifted off, the outpost receding beneath them, Murloc and Thal watched in stunned silence as the last bastion of humanity was consumed in a blaze of self-destruction. The fire lit the sky, a bittersweet testament to the indomitable spirit of a species that had reached for the stars and paid the ultimate price for their hubris. In the end, the true legacy of the humans would not be their technological marvels or their scientific achievements. It would be their willingness to sacrifice everything, to give up their very existence in order to protect the galaxy from the consequences of their own mistakes. It was a lesson that would echo through the ages, a reminder of the delicate balance between progress and destruction, ambition and restraint. And as the Voxari ship hurtled through the void, carrying with it the last remnants of humanity's story, Murloc and Thal knew that they would carry that lesson with them always, a solemn vow to honor the memory of a species that had dared to dream and paid the price for their courage. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.